Inflation zoomed to a fresh 14-year high in November on the back of higher food prices. A 14-year-old boy died in Novaliches, Quezon City after getting mugged outside his school, while a bloody brawl over at the Colegio San Agustin in Makati is now the subject of investigations. And how you like that? Time magazine names K-pop girl group Blackpink as Entertainer of the Year. Fast, focused, and fearless. Here's a roundup of stories we're watching now. I'm Sean Yao. Filipino consumers are facing tougher times with the country's inflation rate jumping to another record high in November. Shaila Francisco with the details.
The country's inflation rate surged to 8% in November on the back of higher food prices. The latest inflation print is the highest in 14 years, after inflation peaked at 9.1% in November 2008 due to the global financial crisis. This is bad news for consumers, especially as Christmas Day nears. The Trade Department said that it has no control over prices of Noche Buena products as these items are not regulated.
Na yung manufactured food products naman, depende rin sa produkto kasi merong talagang mataas yung demand. So, itataas nila yung presyo. Pero pagka gustong maubos na ng retailer, ibababa na rin nila yon.
The World Bank also expects inflation to continue to rise until next year.
And this is premised on, the second round effects have crept into inflation. As you can see, not only has headline inflation increased through the increase in food and fuel prices, but also it has crept into core inflation, which means that that maybe the second round effects, the wage increases, and increased inflation expectations. So based on this, even as we project that global commodity prices are going to fall again in 23 and 24, there will be still this momentum of core inflation that will continue to push inflation beyond 4%.
Inflation will also be one of the challenges for economic growth in 2023.
Now, the bad news is that high domestic inflation is threatening household consumption. The rising interest rate could temper investments, and slow global growth could depress the export of demand-sensitive products such as electronics.
The ongoing tension in Ukraine and Russia and the weakening of global economies will also likely affect the Philippines' growth. Because of this, the World Bank downgraded its 2023 growth projection for the Philippines to 5.7%. This is lower compared to the 6 to 7% estimate of the Development Budget Coordination Committee. Shaila Francisco, One News.
One political pundit believes that the pushback on the proposed Maharlika Investment Fund is fueled by trust issues against the Marcos family. Speaking to the Chiefs, academic and author Richard Haydarian cited the issues of ill-gotten wealth and unpaid taxes that are hounding the Marcoses. Haydarian said that the Marcos Jr. administration must first gain the public's trust before discussions on setting up a sovereign wealth fund can move forward. The bill seeking to create the Maharlika Investment Fund was filed by Marcos Jr.'s cousin, House Speaker Martin Romualdez.
For me sana, if this administration first dealt with the trust deficit issue, push for good governance reform, come up with a new government agency that deals with corruption, resolve some of the baggages that is attached to the ruling family, etc., then we can move forward.
Beep card operator AF Payments denies profiteering amid the shortage of cards in rail stations. AF Payments stressed that it has been subsidizing the cost of beep cards for years. The company also said that less than 1% of its cards have been allocated for online sale, while 95% of cards go to rail stations. AF Payments also said that their subsidy for the cards doubled to 24 million pesos this year and could even reach 70 million pesos next year. Because of this, The company argues that they cannot be accused of profiting from an operation that they are subsidizing. We're gonna pause for a quick break, but we will be back with more stories after that. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Sean Yao. The Quezon City local government has set up a zipper lane along Quezon Avenue to help ease the flow of traffic in the area. Gio Robles with the details.
Heavy traffic is an everyday sight in this portion of Quezon Avenue. Vehicles from the Commonwealth and Visayas avenues flock to this area to get to their respective destinations. This is why the Quezon City local government implemented a zipper lane. From 6 to 8 in the morning, vehicles going to Manila will be allowed to counterflow in the westbound lane, from the lung center of the Philippines going to EDSA until the U-turn slot at the Providence Hospital. Other adjustments have also been implemented in accordance to the dry run that was done last weekend.
Mula alas 6 ng umaga hanggang alas 7, ginamit siya ng westbound vehicles. Pagdating ng alas 7 hanggang alas 7:15, sinara natin ito siya for westbound vehicles at ginamit siya for eastbound vehicles.
Exits were also added to avoid congestion. 25 traffic enforcers from the local government have been deployed to man the zipper lane. This is to ease the heavy traffic experienced by motorists at the elliptical road and Quezon Avenue. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court is set to tackle today the petition questioning the legality of the no contact apprehension policy or NCAP in certain areas in the metro. The High Court had previously ordered the temporary suspension of the NCAP in some cities. The QC, Manila, Muntinlupa, Parañaque, and Valenzuela City LGUs, as well as the Land Transportation Office, are the respondents. The implementation of the NCAP has drawn flack with drivers stating vague violations and excessive fines. For News 5, Gio Robles, we are One News.
And a 14-year-old boy died after getting beaten up by 4 bystanders outside his school in Quezon City. Jenny Dongon with the story.
Ano ba yung masakit? Yung ulo, yung sugat?
Ulo. Tinulungan siya sa ulo eh. Ano yung mataubusin mo?
Damit nga makmak dyan. Saan ba si JJ? Ay, Kenneth.
14-year-old J. Chris could not hide his pain to his grandmother after he was mugged just outside San Bartolome High School in Novaliches, Quezon City last November 18. J. Chris suffered multiple wounds in his head and bruises in his body. He needed to be intubated to assist his breathing, but a week later, he died from his injuries. J. Chris told his grandmother that he was beaten by 4 strangers outside his school. His friend, who was with him at the time, managed to escape from the suspects. The incident was caught in CCTV. In the video, J. Chris was being chased until he was cornered and beaten to his eventual death. The 4 stopped beating the minor when another person walked by the scene.
Pagpasok sa loob ng bahay, tinanong ko siya kung ano nangyari. Kasi gumano na siya, ma'am, umiiyak. Sabi ko, anong nangyari sa'yo? Pinagtripan po ako, Lola. Sabi ko, saan? Sa overpass, Lola. Tinadyakan, sinuntok, parang may pinalo pa sa ulo. Ngayon, nakita ko po yung ulo niya, ma'am, may dugo rito, may sugat. Maya-maya, sumuka at nahimatay.
Police said 3 of the 4 suspects were also minors.
Accordingly sa investigation namin, parang naangasan sila kasi siguro magandang pumorma daw ata yung lalaki. Dayo itong mga ito, yung mga suspect na nagtatambay lang doon sa harap ng school. Parang nangungursunada lang kung sinong gusto. Parang napagtripan lang talaga yung victim.
All 4 suspects have been arrested a day after the incident, with the 3 minors placed under the custody of the DSWD. All 4 suspects will face frustrated murder complaints. Meanwhile, another violent incident is being investigated at the Colegio San Agustin in Makati. A viral video on social media showed 2 grade 9 students fighting inside the school's bathroom. One of the students allegedly pulled out brass knuckles and used it on the victim, which caused head injuries. The school has since launched an investigation on the matter. They are also trying to determine whether the incident can be considered an act of racial violence, since the victim is allegedly an Indian national.
May mga initial na po tayong findings. Sa kasalukuyan po ay nagkakaroon ng investigation, and apparently hindi lang po 2 estudyante ang involved, kundi marami pa po. I think more or less 10 estudyante ang involved.
For News 5, Jenny Dongon, we are One News.
And here's a quick look at today's other top stories. Bureau of Corrections Acting Chief Gregorio Catapang plans to file plunder cases against some Bucor officials over the questionable release of funds. Catapang said 95% of the budget for modernization of jails were already released, but only around 60% of the projects have been completed. The Philippines has suspended the deployment of overseas Filipino workers to India after the country was found to be non-compliant with the requirements set by the Migrant Workers and Overseas Filipinos Act. The Philippine Overseas Employment Administration, or POEA, said OFWs are only allowed to be deployed to countries where migrant worker rights are protected. And K-pop girl group Blackpink has been named as Time Magazine's Entertainer of the Year. They are the second K-pop group to be selected as Entertainer of the Year after BTS. For more updates, visit News 5, The Philippine Star, and Business World online. Visit our website, onenews.ph, for more in-depth analysis. You can also catch One News on Signal Play. Register for a free account at www.signalplay.com and stream One News Live anytime, anywhere. I am Sean Yao. We are One News.